Hey everybody, Pat Monahan here of Train and the Patcast. And I'm home right now for a little bit, back from the road and in the studio currently with my friends Espionage, who are from Norway or New York, wherever they like to decide they're from at the time. We're working on a lot of new music, hoping to have something for you to listen to not so long from now. And man, we're right around the corner from football season, I think. The first game was yesterday, and this weekend everybody's jacked up to see how their fantasy football teams are going to, provide them with some bragging rights. Jimmy Stafford. This week, I wanted to bring to you a friend of mine named Adam Schlesinger. And Adam is one of the most talented guys that I've ever met, and I mean that because he is not just one of the main songwriters of Fountains of Wayne, but he's an incredible writer for television and shows that happen like the American Music Awards, which is the first time that I met Adam. He wrote a song, and I got to sing that with Ken Jeong. You might have remembered it, where Ken called me a bitch. Anyway, Ken has apologized since, and we have become friends, and I plan on doing a podcast with him when I'm in Los Angeles soon. But until then, I just want you to really check this guy out on every level. He forgot a guitar, so we didn't get to have one until like midway through the interview, but there was lots to talk about. And I think you're going to love not just Stacy's mom from the past when you look up Adam, but you'll love a lot of the deeper cuts because this band could write some songs, man. So here he is from Fountains of Wayne, Adam Schlesinger.
What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking. What do you do? What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking, looking at you. You got to get it while the getting is good. Laugh when you can, cry when you should. You got to give it till the giving is gone. Do what you can, then you move on. What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking. What do you do? What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking, looking at you.
Hey, this is Pat Monahan again with my podcast. And a while ago, I was turned on to this guy at, what was it? It was the American Music Awards was the first
Billboard.
time. Oh, the Billboard Awards.
Billboard
yeah.
Awards.
So this is a new friend of mine from a couple years ago. His name is Adam Schlesinger, and
Hi.
he is you're the main songwriter, right? Of Fountains of Wayne. Are you?
Well,
would you consider that or not?
I don't think the other guy would be too happy about that.
Yeah, but who cares about that guy? He's not here.
No, there's two songwriters in the band. It's myself and Chris Collingwood.
Okay.
And,
Anyways, I'm so psyched to have you, man. I think you're one of the great songwriters
thank you very much.
of people who are alive right now. I everything you do,
Barely
I go
alive.
like, God, man, I can't believe you did that. And we'll talk about all that stuff in a little bit. But when it comes to songwriting, what is it that you do? Do you do all the music and melody? Like, where's your part?
I write music and lyrics. In our band, actually, we don't collaborate at all. I mean, the songs are either my song
Really?
or they're Chris's song completely. Yeah. I mean,
one of the songs that I was hoping that we'd be able to perform, Hackensack.
yeah, that's mine.
Dude,
that's
it's
one of mine.
such an incredible song, man.
Thank you very much.
And you wrote all of it.
I wrote all of it, yeah.
And so I guess one of the things that when I listen to people's music, I go like, I have to connect it to something.
Yeah.
And I definitely connect it to Beach Boys meet Jellyfish.
Oh, well, that's all stuff that I like, definitely.
Right. But it's like, do you hear that in your own music or not?
Well, I mean, I think definitely those are really melodic kinds of references, and I definitely focus on melody, I think. I'm not really like a riff writing kind of guy so much. My songs are usually more about melodic ideas.
They're so melodic, man. And then, like, when I listen as a singer, like in Hackensack, the chorus is, I will wait for you.
Yeah.
And then the next part is the Beach Boys part where, as long as I need to.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so Beach Boys,
So
man.
we are going to get to do it. We're going to get an a cappella version of it here. This is cool.
It's such a great song. But do you sing as well?
I do sing, but when we started playing together, Chris and myself, we were like 18, and we used to take turns, and I would sing my songs, and he would sing his. But he was just better than me, and I think we just at some
was
point
better
he was
at
he's just
singing.
a better lead singer, and I was never that comfortable being the front guy, and I wasn't that comfortable with my voice, so I sing background vocals on everything. But I think it helped the band have a sound to just let him be the voice, and
Right.
but it's created some problems along the way too, because if I write something and he doesn't feel like he can sing it, then we just can't do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's
So that's why
he's
you
got like
decided
veto power.
to go do other things like in television and everything like that.
Kind of, yeah. Like I always had sort of broader musical interests beyond what just the band was doing, and I like being sort of a chameleon and seeing if I could, like rip off different styles. Or it started like right when I was sort of out of college, and I had some friends that were working on some TV shows, and they asked me if I just wanted to try working for them, and I had no experience at all, but I just tried it, and I found I really liked having assignments. I really liked somebody saying like, oh, we need this song for this weird scene, and it has to be this, and it was like a crossword puzzle, and we need it in 2 days, and I found it was almost like liberating as a songwriter.
You're so good at it. When I sang a song that you wrote, you collaborated that song, right, for Ken Jeong when he opened the award show.
I wrote that by myself.
You wrote that.
Yeah.
Now, who wrote? Did you collaborate? It's Not Just for Gays Anymore.
Yes.
Because that is an incredible song.
That one was written with a guy named David Javerbaum, who's everyone calls DJ, and he's a comedy writer and a lyricist, and he and I have worked together on a lot of stuff. He was at The Daily Show for many years, and that, I have to give him full credit, was his idea, that lyric. And I threw in a couple lines, and I wrote the music for that one, but the concept was his.
And like when it comes to songwriting, it's like, who cares if whatever the thing was that you guys created? It doesn't even matter what part was what,
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, actually, one of the reasons I love doing all this other stuff outside of the band world is you get to collaborate with different people, and everybody has a different approach. And you can.
What do you like better, man? Because I know, like, being on the road I'm on the road, like, so often that I just, like, look at everybody that I'm on the road with, and I go, like, wow. They become, like, in those cartoons where... in Wile E. Coyote, you become drumsticks, like chicken drumsticks, and that's what
you're gonna eat your band.
I'm like, I think I'm gonna eat that man, So
that's a really funny way of looking.
But when you get to switch it up, it makes it more bearable, right? So when you do see your band, you're like, oh man, it's fun to see these guys, and then you get to leave and go do something else.
I mean,
creative.
we don't tour as intensely as you guys do, first of all, and we don't also tour as intensely as we used to 10 years ago. So we still do it, but it's kind of sporadic. And I think the thing that's allowed us to last is the fact that we don't do it all the time.
Right.
And I'm off working with lots of different people and doing lots of different things, and it keeps me creatively. But
you're still doing Fountains of Wayne, right?
Yeah. Like our last record came out about a year and a half ago, and we did a pretty extensive amount of touring for that record. But now it's kind of petering out, and we're figuring out what to do next.
Did it bum you out more or make you excited that you were recognized for Stacy's Mom as massively as you were after being a band for how long?
Yeah, we were 8 years in at that point.
So you were the fun of 2003.
2003. Right? That was. So
you were the fun. Like Fun wins all these. They won New Artist. Did you win New Artist that year?
We were nominated for Best New Artist, and it was hilarious because it was our third record, and
that's
it was
hilarious.
like coming up on a decade of being a band.
The same thing happened with Fun. Their speech this year was, "We're so old."
Kids love that.
Yeah, kids love that.
Stacy's Mom, I have no complaints because it basically saved our asses. I mean, the band was, we were kind of limping along, and that obviously put us in a different level.
It gives you a chance to make more music, right?
Yeah, to do what we wanted, and I think that was a really strong record for us overall, and that song definitely kind of stood out as a single. But I think that people that went, it was still also at that time where people would really buy the record, and it wasn't just about the 99-cent download of the single. So we sold a fair amount of records, and I think people that discovered the album found out that it wasn't just like 12 Stacy's Moms on that record, that the record's really diverse.
And was that a collaborative song?
That one I wrote myself, yeah.
Now, does anybody get pissed off that's the way that worked out?
Well, I mean, financially speaking, like Chris and I always split everything, so it wasn't a money thing. But I think for him it was a bummer because it's not a song that he would have ever written. Like it's just something that's definitely kind of my vibe, and,
Right.
and you know, but because he's the singer, like he has to talk
so
about
good,
it in
man.
every
It's
interview.
so like got great comedy, but it's also like so real that a kid would be like, "Dude, your mom's so hot."
Yeah, I mean, it definitely had kind of a novelty aspect to it, which is why it got a lot of airplay. But I thought personally it was a good song too. And Chris was like, it was the second time in our career where he had to sort of like end up talking a lot about a song that he didn't write. Because the first time was
Right.
when our first record came out. It was 1996, and I had written a song for a movie called That Thing You Do, just purely by coincidence. Like that movie came out pretty much the same week as our debut album came out, and the movie was doing pretty well, and the song from the movie was doing pretty well. So every article about Fountains of Wayne, the headline was "That Thing They Do."
Oh, cool.
These are the guys that wrote
See,
that
I
song.
would have loved that.
And so Chris, it was a tough situation for him because here he is, he's the lead singer, it's his debut
Right.
record too, and it's like suddenly he just has to talk about this movie that it had nothing to do with. So
Oh.
so there's been a lot of shit like that over the years.
That's a bummer. Like it's such a strange human thing. Like it takes whatever to get you to want to make music, right? So
Right.
it makes you have to have an ego or a desire to be popular or whatever it is that your
Right.
desire is, and then you finally get that thing that you're asking for, but maybe it didn't come the way you wanted it to come, so you start to resent the way it came. And
Right.
it isn't designed the way you dreamt it would be. But
Right,
you
instead of
can't be-
appreciating what you do have to
Right,
sort
but you can't be mad at it entirely because it's paying your mortgage or your rent.
Right.
It's a strange,
I know. I mean,
comical.
it's totally tough, and it's funny because a lot of bands, at least, I mean, maybe it's changing now a little bit because like the major labels don't have such a stronghold on the whole industry. But like a lot of bands that I came up with would like get talked into recording songs they didn't like because they might be a hit, or writing with people they weren't necessarily into writing with because they might. And it's sort of putting the cart before the horse thing, where you're like, look, if you have a hit, it's going to do this and that, but.
Right.
But then they end up putting out music they don't even like, and then it's. I mean, I felt like at least with our band, we were pretty proud of all the records we made. There were some songs here and there we might not dig, but for the most part, we got left alone to just make our records. And
But then you got together with some guys and started a band called Tinted Windows, right?
yep,
And why? Why those three? Like, why those three guys? Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick, who
Yeah.
that also sounds like he's an influential part of your past.
well, I was a huge Cheap Trick fan. I mean, the way that whole thing came about was basically James Eha and I are old friends. He's from formerly
James is a super sweet guy, right?
Yeah,
I've never met him, but like
he's a
his
great guy.
reputation is like he's one of the best, coolest.
and he was very helpful in getting Fountains of Wayne off the ground, like helped us find management. And then
really?
we went on tour with the Pumpkins like in '97. That was our first big tour.
That's awesome, man.
So I've been friends with him for years, and then we ended up being partners in a lot of things, a recording studio and a record label, and a lot of different sort of ventures together. We like.
Are you still partners in those things?
Well, no, the record label's over, and the recording studio we actually just shut down. So now we're just friends again. But
Oh, really? You
yeah.
just shut it down just because the nature of the music business is like people are making records in their houses now.
Yeah, it stopped making the kind of sense that it once did.
Sure.
So I have my own studio now, and he has his own studio. But anyway, so James and I were talking one day and saying it would be really fun to do something with Taylor Hanson, who we were both friends with anyway, and we just said,
You both were friends with Taylor.
Yeah, like I knew Taylor
Is he a New York kid?
No, they live in Oklahoma, Tulsa.
Okay. And how did you become friends with the Hansons?
I got put together with them to write for their first record, which I stupidly kind of blew off, and then the record
really?
went on to sell 1 zillion copies.
Oh, yeah,
but,
that's interesting.
But we stayed friends. So James and I were just talking about like it'd be really fun to do something with Taylor, and we were saying how in a different era
Because he's a good kid, right?
yeah, and he's super talented.
He's like
and he's
an
not,
adult
he's like
now,
30
isn't he?
now. I mean, he's not such a kid anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, he has this crazy great voice, and we were just saying, in a different era, he could have been Robin Zander or something.
Right.
He's like this
and
Midwestern
then you
kid.
thought of Robin Zander, and you were like, "Hey, I wonder what Bunny's doing."
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what happened. We were like, we could do kind of a power pop type thing with Taylor singing, and who can we get drums, to play drums that sounds kind of like Bunny
Who
Carlos.
wrote those songs?
We all did. I wrote a bunch of them. James wrote a few.
And did you
Taylor
do it
wrote-
individually, like you do Fountains of Wayne?
Yeah, the writing was pretty individual, but we made the record all together. You know, we got together and hashed out some arrangements, and it was really just a one-off fun thing. I mean, we might do it again.
Is Bunny still able to play?
Yeah, I don't really know what's happening with Bunny. I mean, he's actually going to sub in Fountains of Wayne in a couple months. He's going to sit in because we have a gig that our drummer can't make. So I think he still plays.
I still think he's one of the coolest drummers of all time.
Yeah, he has such a thing.
Is Cheap Trick in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
That's a good question.
I don't think they are.
They should be, right?
How are they not?
Were they nominated? We got to Google this. I don't know.
Yeah, we got to Google this.
Yeah.
Pergo. Anyway, I really love that project too.
Oh, cool.
I remember a tour manager that was our tour manager for 10 years, Tom O'Keefe. He told me about your project. He's a huge Fountains of Wayne fan. I think he's just a massive fan of yours. But
cool.
But he loves Cheap Trick. He loves Fountains of Wayne. Like he knew a lot about you, and so he told me about Tinted Windows, right when it happened. It was like 2009 or something. You guys put the record out? Yeah, so he knew right away, and he was so excited because, he doesn't hate on the Hansons or anything, so he was like, yeah, man, this kid is like really great in this, you know, because he could relate to a bunch of adults who were writing, cool songs, but maybe Bop wasn't what would have inspired him as a person, And so he was able to connect with Taylor and how great he really is through you.
Yeah. I mean, Taylor, those guys too. I mean, they've really outlasted,
of course,
what everybody thought. Probably.
Yeah, those guys created their own record label.
Yeah, they're very self-sufficient and they work constantly. They're super hardcore.
But unfortunately, with the nature of music or art, if bop is what you came out with in the beginning, you immediately eliminate an enormous amount of people forever.
Right.
And that's, it happens. It happens with all bands, with all of us. Whatever Stacy's mom, whatever it did for you, it took away. Just like Drops of Jupiter, when it was a big hit song for Train, we lost as much as we gained. Like Meet Virginia was like a cool indie college song.
Right.
And then as soon as we were on pop radio.
Yeah, it's a weird way to it's a weird thing because on the one hand, when songs get that big, it's amazing and it makes your band bigger. On the other hand, you think about all the people that hear a big song and didn't like it. There's probably 9 people that didn't like it for every one person that did. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about any big hit song.
Yeah.
Think about Alanis Morissette, when she sold like a zillion records in the 90s. But think about all the people that heard Alanis Morissette and was like, I do not want that record.
Right.
There's probably like 10 times more people. But,
right. If you look at it that way.
So you can choose to look at it as
that's a much more intelligent way of looking at it. I'd like to stop that right away.
Yeah, exactly.
So you looked and they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right?
That's a no, and the first result on Google is the 10 worst Rock and Roll Hall of Fame snubs.
Oh, really?
The
The 10
Cheap Trick?
worst Rock and Roll Hall of Fame snubs. It's got to be Kiss, number 1.
They're not in?
No.
I saw that Kiss is doing a line of Hello Kitty Kiss dolls. It's like Hello Kitty with Kiss makeup on.
Wow.
Yesterday I just read about this, and there's going to be a
It's
TV
wild
show.
that even kids that love Hello Kitty, what's the connection for them? They don't know who
They
Kiss
don't know
is.
what it... Yeah.
But they'll love the dolls, right? All right. So one of the other things I read about, and we'll get to all your movies and stuff, but Crybaby.
Yeah.
How much of a part of that movie were you? For people who don't know what Crybaby is, it's one of the weirdest movies you could ever watch in your life.
Yeah, I didn't actually work on the movie. I worked on the Broadway show version.
Oh, you worked on the Broadway show.
The movie,
was the Broadway show as weird as the movie?
Probably not, and that's probably one of the reasons it didn't do so well is because it was funny. What happened is, Hairspray was a huge hit on Broadway. Yeah. And so I think a bunch of people thought, well, let's do another John Waters adaptation because the last one was a gold mine. So they called me and asked me to work on it. And for me, it was a cool opportunity because it was like sort of skipping to the head of the class. Like I got to work with the guy that wrote, the producers and Young Frankenstein and like all these big Broadway names. And the director was this guy, Rob Ashford, who's like legendary.
Yeah, of course.
Choreographer, I should say. And the director was a guy named Mark Brokaw, like really big people in Broadway.
Yeah.
So I got involved with the project. But, and so we didn't use any of the songs from the movie. We wrote a whole new, set of songs. And it was a big learning experience for me. And it was fun, but I think also the show maybe suffered a little bit from like not being really edgy enough, like in the way that like
I
Book of
always
Mormon is or
wondered,
something.
I always wondered, like, why didn't Rocky Horror Picture Show ever become a Broadway show? Like,
I don't know. Was it not ever off Broadway or anything?
I don't know, because
You're doing a lot of Googling over here.
all I know is that, like, movies like Cry Baby, which
Right.
the only direct connection you can make to that movie is Rocky Horror. To me,
Yeah.
when you watch Cry Baby, like, I remember seeing the first time I ever saw it. What is the girl's name? The lead girl who can distort her face so dramatically.
Hatchet Face?
Hatchet Face, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm watching this movie with my wife and my daughter, who was like 14 at the time, and I'm like, what is this weird thing? And they both start singing these songs to me. And,
Yeah.
And I realized this is like a cult thing, you know, like you
Well,
either
yeah,
get it
it's
or
sort
you
of
don't.
like John
and-
Waters' take on Grease or something. You know, it's like
Right.
that 50s kind of thing done through John Waters' demented kind
Right.
of worldview.
It was on Broadway.
Really?
It was,
Rocky
okay.
Horror was on Broadway.
There
See,
you go.
I guess
Right.
I'm an idiot.
I mean,
So-
nowadays, like pretty much every movie is getting turned into a Broadway show, and I get a lot of calls
But
about like,
Broadway is, are they doing well? Is Broadway alive and well?
I think there's certain shows that are massively successful, and most
Yeah.
of them are failures, just like every other
Sure, just
part
like
of the entertainment
rock
business.
bands and
Yeah,
movies,
most
right?
records fail, most movies fail, most Broadway shows fail. The problem is that the process is so long.
It's so long. There's
And
so many people involved. It's
Cry
got-
Baby was like 5 or 6 years, and it
and it
wasn't.
had,
it
I mean,
wasn't
how
like-
much money was spent to find out that it wasn't going to work?
Yeah, I mean, it was millions, and it was a long time, and there was a lot of problems with like the rights, so it got derailed a few times.
Oh, really?
And then it's not like this thing where you're just ever done. You're not really done until after previews. Like you're continually rewriting, and there's people like panicking and like, oh, we need to replace this song. We need a new song by tomorrow.
Wow.
So it's like it's just this crazy. I had no idea.
You
what I was
kind of
getting into.
live on the panicking side of music. You really do. Like, you kind of like it.
Yeah.
It's like deadlines and stuff like that. Guys like you really like it. I love a challenge.
Yeah.
Like if somebody says, hey, 6 people have tried to write this song.
Right.
Or a hook on this, whatever, and it hasn't happened. That's like my dream come true to
Right.
get that challenge. But
Right.
for you, you're more of a timeline guy where it's like, hey, you have 3 hours.
Yeah, it's usually not 3 hours, but yes, it might be a few days or something. But it's like it's fun to see if you can get it done when you have to.
Are you a visual guy? Do you need to see, like if you're working with when you did That Thing You Do?
Yeah,
Did you write that entire song?
I did. Yeah,
Man, it's so incredible. How did you go to that era? How was it so easy for you?
I mean, I think for me, the more information I have up front, the better chance I have of getting it right. And I think a lot of times when I don't get something, it's because I didn't really have the right information from the director or from the whoever's in charge.
Oh, yeah, that's
sometimes
interesting.
you sort of like get weird misdirection. Like I'll give you an example once. Like there was some Eddie Murphy movie. I can't even remember what it was, but like they told
Something
me-
awesome.
Yeah, they told me that they wanted a scene in this like aerobics class. They wanted an original song, and they referenced like the Pointer Sisters, like Neutron Dance or something. And I was like, oh, so it must be some kind of retro '80s scene,
Right.
And so I did this thing that was like super '80s, cheesy, drum sounds and everything. And then it turned out that was totally the wrong reference. That it was just some lame old guy at the movie company. That's the only thing he could think of. But they just wanted like a hit. They just wanted like a current sounding, like energetic record. And
Right.
so I sent in this like really embarrassing, like 80s sounding dated thing. And they were
was
like,
the
oh,
last-
this sounds kind of like old. Like this doesn't. And I was like, well, you said fucking Neutron Dance. I mean,
Yeah, maybe you should stop using Neutron Dance as your reference.
Right.
Warner Brothers.
right. So
or
anyway,
whoever.
with That Thing You Do, they were very specific about what they wanted it to sound like, and they were like, needs to sound like an American band imitating the Beatles in
Yeah.
1964, and here's some records you should go check out. And they reference like the Knickerbockers and a few like sort of like also ran groups
Yeah.
from that era that had like one hit.
Were you able to communicate with Tom Hanks at all?
I mean, not when I wrote it. I didn't meet him until afterward.
Oh, you have. You met him after.
I met him afterward, yeah.
Tom Hanks, this is what I'm told, and I don't know him personally, but I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania,
Right.
where the band is from,
Right.
in That Thing You Do. And I'm told that he had a big role in the band being from there based on he used to go to Erie, I think probably between his runs to Pittsburgh and Cleveland and everything.
Yeah.
And he really dug going there. That he wanted Erie to be the town that the band was from. And then,
he wrote the movie, so I guess
he wrote the whole movie.
Yeah, and directed. So
See, I didn't know that.
That was his directorial debut.
That was one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's cool. It was cool that somebody like that made a small movie as his first thing, as opposed to trying to make like some epic.
And that song still is one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, cool! Yeah,
it's like music is the connection to all visual things for me.
Yeah,
like when I see my wife, I'm like. No, I'm just kidding. But
that's her theme song. That's her entrance music.
That's her entry music
to the bedroom.
No, but really,
welcome to Too Much Information with Pat Monahan.
When I look back at my life, I have to connect my visual things with sounds, and I don't know why.
That's a good way to think about music, though. I mean, that makes sense.
But when I think of my favorite movies, which is like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, not the new weird version, but the version with great songs.
Right.
Those songs are why I love the movie. Those, the songs of The Wizard of Oz, that's why it's one of my favorite movies.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I think now so many kids consume music exclusively on YouTube.
Yeah.
So every song has a visual component, even if it's just a lyric video or some homemade video.
I think
it's like nobody just listens to music; they watch music.
You watch music.
Like my kids, like they don't really want to. It never occurs to them to buy a CD or anything. They just want to sit in front of the computer and like watch videos and listen to the songs. And
so, how old are your children?
I've got two daughters, 10 and 6.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they're into music, but they're definitely into like hits. They just know. Of
course,
they know hits.
It's so funny when you're coming up and you're a kid and you're making music, and girls seem to be attracted in a different way than boys to music, and then you have some girls and you go, wow, they have that gene too, right? And you go like, I don't know.
And it's kind of crazy these days because, like the top 40 is kind of dirty. Like if you have a 6-year-old and she listens to like Z100, there's a lot of songs where you don't really want to have to explain what they're talking about, but
Well, that's why I've insisted to just simply use medical terms in all the next train music, and so I will say the word vagina.
I'm going to say correct record.
I'm going to say it, and it's going to be with a great melody. So I might need your help.
Right.
But I want to get that word in there.
That's good.
If I can get the word vagina on Z100, I think it's a new era.
Well, Thrift Shop, the opening line of that song is walk into the club like, what up, I got a big cock.
Yeah.
That's the
a
number
jam
one record.
Of a song, right?
It's the best. It's the best song. But,
so like
then you have to
song.
explain what's going on in that song to a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Well, honey, he has
a large chicken.
He has a large... let's just listen to the chorus.
Yeah.
And then the chorus has, I'm fucking awesome in it. And you're like, okay, let's go to the pre-chorus.
Right.
He doesn't have a record label. He's got the biggest song in the whole world.
It's an awesome.
It's kind of like if you're a record label, you should be worried. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. Like they don't control the distribution really anymore. Anyone can put anything out, and it can get traction in different ways.
You're one of the guys that has been a part of the transition from actually selling, records or CDs to iTunes to now YouTube. What do you like? I have a very strong opinion of all of it, and I've seen so many different takes on things, like how people feel about Spotify, how people feel about getting free music and downloading, and the whole process.
Yeah.
And every age group has a different opinion. What's your take on how things have come?
I mean, definitely financially, it sucks as a songwriter because it just your stuff's out there for free, and they really haven't seemed to like figure out how to monetize it. Especially all the streaming stuff and the YouTube stuff. It's like you can get millions of views or whatever and see tiny little checks from it. So I don't know if that's fixable or not. I really don't know.
Right.
I do like the fact that, like you said, it's easier for music to just be heard and for people to have, I remember.
Don't you think that in a way it's kind of the record business fixing itself? Like, don't you think that when you started out and you were signed by, I don't know what label you were signed by in the beginning, but you're probably signed by 6 labels, and half of them, didn't even care, and then finally somebody cared, and all the money that was spent was like it didn't even matter because Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston were making so much dough that they were able to fly around in their helicopters. There's like some kind of correction happening.
Yeah, it was definitely overblown and crazy. And also, I mean, in a way, there's something correct about the idea of like you like a song and you can just buy the song for 99 cents and you don't get suckered into buying like an $18.99 album for one song that you want.
And most of it's not great.
Right. So, I mean, there's some justice to that, I guess.
Yeah.
That's how I guess that's how I look at it is there's justice. It's like the consumer, we forget we're consumers.
Right.
Like when you're a songwriter for a long enough time, you forget, hey, wait, I like music too. You almost forget. And you go, I want to figure out how to get that song too. What's the right thing to do for me as a songwriter? Here's what my kids do.
Right.
Here's what my friends do. What am I going to do? Like, how do you do it?
How do I decide what I'm going to do?
No, do you purchase music?
I see.
Do you even buy music anymore?
I buy some music. I tend to buy individual songs these days more than whole records.
Yeah.
You
have Spotify? Are you a fan of it?
I don't have Spotify. I like Pandora. I think Pandora's kind of interesting. It's sort of weird.
Yeah.
And like it's funny how it lumps things together. So I think that's sort of an interesting take on it. I don't know. I actually just got rid of all my CDs. I had like thousands of CDs, and most of them were like, alternative rock hits of the '90s. Pretty much, just like every alternative rock CD from like probably about 1988 to 1999.
And you don't look at the pile and go, man, all that money I could have saved if I just would have stole it.
I know, but I was just they were in boxes for years, and I was like, I'm never going to listen to any of these again. I'm just not going to.
Right.
So, and they're just taking up half
it's
my house.
Funny, isn't it? The 90s was an interesting time. When you started, it wasn't Fountains of Wayne, right?
Well,
I mean, you were in college when you started the band.
When we
so
were,
before that, you
Chris
must have
and I
been.
played in previous bands. I mean, they were sort of precursors to Fountains of Wayne with different names, but that we didn't start using that name until 95, 96.
And that's really a place in New Jersey.
Oh, it was. It was a store in Wayne, New Jersey that sold Fountains.
Amazing.
They're gone now. They shut down.
And
I think one of the reasons was because we took the web domain. They didn't realize the value of that. We had
really?
That's probably not the reason, but fountainsofwayne.com, like we claimed that really early, and then years later, they called us. They were like, "Oh, could you link to our, fountainsofwaynenj.com?" And I felt kind of bad, but we did tell them.
Oh, hey, we're gonna take you guys out of business, but thanks for the name.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that was the reason, but I mean, they were a landmark in northern New Jersey.
And is Wayne, New Jersey, where you're from, or what?
I grew up in Manhattan as a little kid, and then in Montclair, New Jersey, from about first grade through high school. And Wayne was close to there, but not my hometown.
Hackensack, man.
Oh yeah, we got to do that one. We got to figure out a way to do it.
But it's such an interesting. How did you write that song?
A lot of times when I write for the band, I write lyrics first. Like I don't sit with an instrument. I just write lyrics and almost like put couplets together and see if it's.
But did you know somebody from like you grew up with that was a famous actor, or was it just like part of your imagination?
It's a lot of it's just kind of stream of consciousness. Like I don't really know what I'm writing about. I'll just start writing rhyming couplets and it'll start to suggest a story, and I'll look for some way to make it coherent.
I really have to write songs with you, man. I think like I feel like I've wasted away most of my life by not writing songs with you.
Oh well,
like you're. What are you doing now? What's next?
Well, the last few months have been sort of just random projects, interesting, diverse things. I just did a Muppet song.
Wow, that's incredible, man.
It's actually for a Disney Channel show. It's not for the Muppet movie, but so I did some sessions with Kermit.
Oh,
look at that.
Hey, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, dude. That's such a huge deal. And we'll bring it back to you.
Do you have one with the red case, though? Because I don't really...
Cool, that's
thanks.
great.
So you think you know this enough to sing it? Do you want to sing it?
Oh, no, I know it. I have to read the words.
Okay.
That's not a problem, right?
Not for me.
You don't care.
Nope.
If you do, then
we can practice.
if you really care, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Wow, it was delivered pretty much in tune.
Nice work.
Is that one of Espen's beauties? Oh yeah, that's the one. That's a really nice guitar. Yeah, the two guys that I write songs with a bunch in New York, Amund and Espen,
Yeah.
the two Norwegian guys that that wrote Soul Sister and Drive By with me. They're close enough that we were able to grab a guitar because neither of us have one. Because why would a couple
Why
of
would two
guys in a
musicians?
band or musicians have guitars? That doesn't make any sense.
So are we practicing, or are we just going to do it?
We're just gonna do
If
it.
it sucks, then we'll just do it again, I guess.
Sure, yeah. All right, here we go. This
Okay.
is one of my favorite Fountains of Wayne songs. All
We
right,
don't have the riff because we only have one guitar, so that'll
cool.
be okay.
We don't need the riff, man. It's just like
works
lyrically
without
and melodically, it's so cool. This is called Hack and Sack. It has nothing to do with me or my life.
What do you mean? It's about you. You didn't know?
I mean, it's about me.
I used to know you when we were young. You were in all my dreams. We sat together in period 1, Fridays at 8:15. Now I see your face in the strangest places, movies and magazines. I saw you talking to Christopher Walken on my TV screen. But I will wait for you as long as I need to. And if you ever get back to Hackensack, I'll be here for you. I used to work in a record store. Now I work for my dad, scraping the paint off the hardwood floors. The hours are pretty bad. Sometimes I wonder where you are, probably in LA. That seems to be where everybody else ends up these days. But I will wait for you as long as I need to. And if you ever get back to Hackensack, I'll be here for you. I'll be here for you. And if you ever get back to Hackensack, I'll be here for you.
Cool.
Nice one, man. Sounded great.
Yeah.
You're hired.
I had one.
Do you want to be in a much less successful band?
Actually, I do.
Okay.
I mean, no, of course I don't. Hey, man, thanks so much for bringing
Thank you.
Wow, that was great.
Let's get back to just a little bit of what you're doing currently and what you're hoping to do.
I don't know. This year I kind of was like, let's just see what happens. I didn't really have much of a plan, but I ended up doing some cool comedy stuff. Like I just wrote a song with Sarah Silverman that's kind of like a club song parody.
I just saw, I see a lot of kids' movies. 'Cause I have
Yeah,
children
she's
as
in
well.
Wreck-It Ralph, right?
Right,
She-
Wreck-It
yeah.
Ralph.
Yeah.
She's such a shit.
She's awesome.
But she's so good at being a shit. There's two Sarah Silverman stories. Both of them I was at Howard Stern's wedding, and so was she.
Oh, yeah.
He's very close with Jimmy Kimmel.
Right.
And she was seeing Jimmy at the time. And so there's two things. I don't think I can get sued for either one by telling the story. But one is I saw her right around the time of the ceremony. And so I saw her and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm just such a big fan. And she's not allowed to like train. You know what I mean? Like if Sarah Silverman likes train, I'm disappointed, right? So she says to me, I love you on Howard's show. And I was like, perfect, great. You got away with it. You know, she was able to like say something nice.
Positive.
Yeah.
Right.
And then later, the most strangest experience of my life was right next to me at my dinner table. My wife wasn't able to join me. She was pregnant, very pregnant. So I was sitting next to Barbara Walters.
Oh my God.
And she's such a sophisticated lady, you know, and so she turns to me at one point during the dinner when there was an odd moment of silence, and she says, so bride or groom? This old-fashioned, she should have just said, I have nothing to say to you.
That's awesome.
And so I was like, I know them both, and just being here with you right now is just very strange and lovely, and then moments later, Sarah Silverman gets up from her table and says, hey, Barbara, we're going to go outside and smoke a joint. You want to come? Which I thought was pretty funny.
That's
and then
awesome.
Barbara topped it by saying, your mothers must be so proud.
That's so cool.
It was really a funny Sarah Silverman moment. But now back to your Sarah Silverman.
Sarah and a few other people are starting this YouTube comedy channel called Jash. And it's Sarah Silverman, Michael Cera, and Reggie Watts, and...
Eric, right?
What's that? Oh, yeah, those guys, Tim and Eric, and anyway...
Tim and Eric are nuts.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm kind of friends with this guy, Daniel Kellison, who is the producer of that whole channel, and he's sort of... So he's called me on a couple of different things. I wrote this song with Sarah, and then I did a song... Michael Cera, no relation to Sarah Silverman.
Right.
Michael Cera is doing a little short film called Brazzaville Teenager, and he asked me to write a song for that, which I just did, which was with Khalees sang it. You know Khalees, who sang Milkshake? And so she sang this song. And it's a very strange, arty little film that he made, and he stars in it, and Charles Grodin is in it. And it all centers around this recording session where Khalees is recording this song supposedly called Brazzaville Teenager, and Michael Cera's character has a sick father, and he has this weird idea in his head that if he can get his boss to sing on this Khalees record, his dad will live. It makes no sense. So he's like, his boss is like this really stiff.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so you wrote that song?
So I wrote the song for that. So that was another one of these weird assignments that's like...
It is a weird assignment, man.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's awesome. So the last, my wife has these questions that she always wants me to ask. So I don't want to not ask them because then she's going to be mad at me. But before I ask you these questions, as a grown man who's been through as much as I have been in the music business, are there some moments of like, are you where you want to be? Are you like obviously you don't have a choice because you are where you are, but is there something missing? Is there something that you just want, if you had, like we all want things because we think that they'll make us feel better. Is there something that you think will make you feel better if you just had that thing?
Professionally speaking, that's what you're talking about, like music business wise. I mean, that's
we can be personal too if you'd like.
No, but
I don't want to.
That's what you're talking about here.
Sure.
I mean, the honest answer to that is like, I'm really, really happy that I've been able to make a living playing music my whole life, and that was when I was a kid. That was sort of my dream, was just to not have to do something else, because it was really the only thing that I could imagine doing. So. There's times when I get bummed out that I didn't get some gig or that some song didn't get used or whatever, and you can get down on that stuff. But,
right.
But I try to remind myself that I'm really lucky that I'm still...
Yeah, those are the brief moments, just like the positive ones.
Yeah, the fact that, especially in this day and age, to be able to just be a musician as your livelihood is great, and I'm thankful that I'm still...
I guess that's why I like your way of looking at like being able to access music. Is very positive.
Yeah.
It's a bummer that it doesn't, come with some sort of monetary, equal.
Right.
But because it doesn't, it's not worth getting rid of it. Like there are a lot of people that are very against any access to anything free.
Right.
And it's a shame because I feel like, I feel really lucky because we were gone. Like,
Yeah.
my band was dead. Or
Yeah.
at least it was all but dead. And no one believed that we could ever come back from the place that we were.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Except for us, you know?
Right.
And the fact that we were able to somehow provide the world with something that they wanted again is beyond me how that happened. But it did, so...
Right, it's amazing.
I'm just so grateful. Like, how could I be mad at anything? I talk about this in interviews all the time. Do you remember coming up, because we came up at the same time, do you remember the negative kind of shittiness that was among all the bands? Kind of like, there's only enough room on the shelves for 3 of us, and there's 9 of us here.
Right.
We need to get remember that attitude?
You mean between bands of like
Sure.
vying for slots and ads
but everywhere, like you would play some random festival or a gig, and there'd be the hot shot band and 2 others that were too cool to talk to anybody, and then then there'd be the regular people,
right?
And but everybody would be hating on everything, because we just couldn't back it, knowing that we were going to disappear if they did well,
Right, yeah.
Was that the same way for you?
Well, and I think also our generation had this really tricky relationship with like selling out and success. Like, it was like, that sort of has gone away. I think like bands can be more openly ambitious now in a weird way, but I think like, this sort of Nirvana era, it was this whole thing of like you had to pretend that you didn't really want to have hit songs or you didn't want to have a successful record. But behind the scenes, everybody was just as ambitious. And
one of the most disappointing parts of that, what you just talked about, was when we toured with Ben Folds 5.
Yeah.
I loved them. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to hear Brick. Oh, and they never played it the whole tour.
Oh, they were like, oh, we don't play that song.
Right. They don't play that song because, and their fans didn't want to hear it. They were like, if you play that song, we'll boo you. I think they got booed once for playing it. Like, how could you boo that song?
That's the reason you're playing in this big venue.
Lovely.
Too.
Like, it's such a heartbreaking song. It's like one of my favorites of that era. But you never took that stance, right? The
only time at a really big show that we didn't play Stacy's Mom was at Coachella. We played Coachella one year, and like we just made the decision not to play it because we were like, yes, it's just Coachella. It just didn't feel right. Like we had just come off.
Was it the right choice?
I don't know. I mean, people talked about the fact that we didn't play it, and I thought maybe in a good way, just for that particular audience.
It's very Coachella of you.
Yeah. But otherwise, we pretty much play it every night. And we
wouldn't be invited to Coachella like if there were no bands left. It'd be like, I guess we'll just cancel this year.
Right.
Just because that's not who we are,
Yeah, I don't think we'll be getting invited anytime soon either. But we had our...
well, you were, though.
We had our second when we were on some of those festivals.
Man. Anyway, I think anybody who writes songs as good as yours is cool no matter what, no matter what Coachella or no Coachella says. So I'm all about... good songs. Okay, here are my wife's questions.
Okay, go.
Please answer them correctly because she's going to be so mad.
Okay.
All right, so we have to be brief because there's about 70 of them. All right, what are you afraid of?
I'm afraid of your wife's questions so far.
What are you best at?
What am I best at? I'm pretty good at taking naps.
All right. What's left to do?
What's left? Oh my God! This is like as if I've accomplished so much. I can't think of anything. That's just. I can't think of anything I haven't accomplished in my life.
There's got to be one thing.
No, there's nothing. I've pretty much accomplished it. I mean, I've cured most major diseases.
Okay.
Yeah, I've solved a lot of world problems, big macro problems. Big
All right.
ones, yeah.
I don't believe you. Okay. Most memorable.
This is like the Proust questionnaire she's doing here. This is like serious.
Most memorable personal moment.
What? What kind of oh my God.
What kind of woman is she? She's an amazing woman. You don't ever question my wife. She questions you.
I didn't ask her what kind of most memorable person. I would have to say being born. That was pretty big.
You can't remember that shit.
Oh yeah, I remember it very clearly. It was dark, and then suddenly there was a bright light.
All right. You're just not taking any of these seriously.
These are big questions. I don't know. I mean, most memorable moment ever? Jesus. I mean, who knows? What's yours? You answer that one first.
Okay. How about one of your highlights of your professional career? Just one.
A highlight of a professional career. Okay, that's a little bit more narrowed down. Okay, I had a really fun moment one time in the recording studio. I was working on a movie called Music and Lyrics, and I was working with Hugh Grant, and we had brought in, I don't know if you were a fan of the band ABC, an 80s band called ABC. Shoot
I don't
that
know
poison
them.
arrow. They were like,
shoot that poison arrow.
So anyway, Hugh
Wow.
Grant was supposed to be playing this like over the hill British
Sure.
pop
Yeah,
star. And
seen
so
the
I
movie.
suggested bringing in Martin Fry from ABC to coach him in how to be like a slightly older British rock star. So they were both in my studio, and Martin Fry from
That
ABC
is
was like
incredible,
teaching
man.
Hugh Grant his like signature hair flips and pointy moves and stuff. And Hugh Grant was imitating him, and I was like, this is just the best day that I'm having
How
here.
could this is why my wife's questions are so amazing.
Yeah.
Like you would not have told that story.
No, and that was a highlight for me, definitely.
Man, I'm a huge Hugh Grant fan.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Did you create some music for it?
I wrote. I didn't write all of it. I wrote some songs for that movie. And
Dude.
and actually Andrew Wyatt, who is now in the band called Mike Snow, he wrote some of the songs for that
Wow,
movie
Mike
too.
Snow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you meet your wife?
We met in a bar, believe it or not.
Anyone you want to be more like?
Well, if you're talking about like professionally, like a hero of mine or something, I would maybe say Randy Newman. Because to me, Randy Newman is a guy who's like been able to have this kind of dual career, making these really eclectic, strange records for his
Right.
fan base, and then at the same time writing these like big Disney songs.
Well, do
And
you do a lot of shows as just you?
No, I never really do any.
Why don't you?
I don't know.
Like you have such a huge repertoire. You play guitar so well. You
closest-
probably play every instrument that there is.
The closest I've ever really come to doing a solo type thing like that is my friend Mike Viola and I put a little show together a couple years ago where it was like songs that we had been commissioned to write for different projects, because he does some movie and
Wow,
TV
that
stuff
sounds
too.
like a
So-
really cool show.
Yeah, so it was fun. It was like small venues, like at Joe's Pub kind of places.
Yeah.
And just basically, we take turns and we tell the story of what the song was for and why we wrote it, and what the assignment was, and then we'd play each other's stuff. So he wrote a bunch of stuff for that movie, Get Him to the Greek, with Russell Brand. Some of
Sure.
those, like, kind of fake-
Incredible.
Yeah,
And you got good friends, man.
Yeah, so you guys should write together,
My
too. You
friends
guys-
are losers. I swear to God. I mean,
Your friends might be listening to this, by the
well,
way.
I know, and hey, friends, get some cooler shit going on, because Adam's got awesome friends, and my friends are lame. Like, do some cool shit. I got nobody. All right. And all right, there's just a couple more, like 30 or 40 more.
Oh, good. Okay. And they're all really, really personal and embarrassing.
Okay. Anything you want for your kids, anything you want for your kids that didn't happen for you. Something that's that you just really totally want. Like for me, I'd love for my kids to see they're already doing it. I never got to leave Pennsylvania as a kid, so my kids are
traveling.
like seeing the world. They're like getting that kind of cool experience.
Yeah, that's. I mean, my kids have actually traveled a fair amount already. They're lucky, but maybe like not having to have a braces and a night brace. I would like that for them.
Yeah.
If
You
they
had
could
a
avoid
neck brace?
Not a night. The thing
Oh,
you're
yeah.
supposed to
Right.
the headgear thing.
Of course, the
Remember,
headgear.
I think I had one. I don't think I ever actually wore it. Maybe a
So
couple
like
times.
if there was maybe one,
That's a very medieval device.
If there was like one girl,
Yeah.
because I dealt with the same thing. If there was like maybe one girl that maybe could slightly like you, that head guard was going to make sure that
Well, you don't
she
wear it around
disappeared.
during the day. It was a sleeping thing. You sleep with it.
Right. But she knew you had it.
She knew
And
somehow.
she was just like, you know what? You got that fucking headgear thing
Yeah.
at home, don't you,
Yeah.
in your drawer? You are lame.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm almost done. One song that you'd like to take back. Doesn't have to be yours.
Oh yeah, Planet of Weed. I wrote a song called Planet of Weed. It's on one of our records, and it was a total it was a joke. It wasn't even supposed to be a song, and for whatever reason, our manager and Chris, our singer, both were like, "Oh, I like that one. Let's put it on the record." And like every single review was like, "That is the stupidest piece of shit novelty
oh my
song."
God.
And I was like,
so they spent the whole
right.
time thinking about this one song instead
No,
of
it's
like
not like
reviewing.
anybody, but they were like, we had a bunch of songs recorded and we were narrowing it down, and everyone was like, no, we kind of like that one. So I
Yeah.
listened to them and we put it on the record, and like every single person that wrote about the record was like, what the fuck is this stupid song?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not funny. I'm sorry. I have a whole album of that. But there's one song that the Crush guys that you work with, they wouldn't let us put on our last record. It's called Futon.
Futon.
Yeah.
I like that title.
And they were just like, man, this record's too good. You can't. And then
Can't
we
have
were
something
like,
called Futon on there.
we loved.
What about Crouton? Could you do that?
Crouton would have been worse because, yeah.
Buy a futon, get a crouton.
Okay, there's 3 more. Is there something that someone said to you that kind of set a pace for you into music? Like, hey, you're great at piano, or your dad saying, whatever you do, don't follow music. Is there something that defined where you are and how it started?
Interesting. I don't know if there was one thing more than I think my attitude was like, as long as I had incremental signs of encouragement along the way,
Yeah.
I wouldn't quit, and
Right.
I had to try to be honest with myself. Like if I was just getting nowhere for years and not, then I would realize, all right, this isn't going to work. I got to go to law school or something. I don't know. But so I don't think it was something that one person said. I think it was more like along the way, like little bits of encouragement here and there, enough to get me to the next phase of whatever I was doing,
Cool. And then the last one is, if you could say one thing to my wife now, what would it be? And you've been
What's your problem?
Really... Oh, I love that. That's a great thing to say. All right.
This interview was so easy, and then like this last portion, I'm like breaking out of sweat here.
Like I'm such a big fan. I don't probably say it enough to people when I really love something that they do, but I love everything that you do. I hope that you keep doing it for a long time,
Thanks
both
for
as your band, but also in all the movies and the stuff that you do. And people like me are out there listening, whether you know it or not, really admiring what you do.
Thanks for doing such a great version of Hackensack. I'm excited to buy my copy.
Yeah, man. I got to edit that one word. I got the tools to do it.
Nice.
I just do it like I do all my records and run the whole thing through a tuning device.
Just tune the whole stereo file. Yes.
All right, everybody.
Awesome.
Adam Schlesinger from Fountains of Wayne and many of your favorite movies. And he wants to know what my wife's problem is. So there you go. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
That was Adam Schlesinger. Fountains of Wayne. Those guys are heading out on a tour at the end of the month. That's September. And they're going to be out with Soul Asylum and Evan Dando. The tour starts, I think, on September 26th, so check that out. I think you can go to fountainsofwayne.com or some version of that to find out where those guys are. So, I'll see you next week, because, man, this shit's happening every week now. Peace out, Patcast.